Alright, well, I want to show you a couple things that have made this whole process of using the fire bow to make fire easier for me. And one thing I've found is if you use the same piece of wood for your spindle and your fireboard, it works. You know, you do want a somewhat soft wood. You'll see the videos and people will tell you to poke the wood with your thumbnail, and if it makes an impression, that's good. But you don't want completely punky wood that just crumbles apart. I mean, this is good solid wood right here. This is box elder. And I just took one long branch, cut it in two. This is my bow, and this is going to be my fireboard and my spindle. It's already got a nice big check right here. I'm going to split this right in two, right along that check. That'll make my job easier, and I'll have two sections to make a fireboard with. And for my bow, I found it's easiest if the bow extends just like this. I don't know if you can see that. From the tip of my finger to my opposite shoulder when my arm is fully extended. That's how long I make my bow. And I get really long strokes, and it doesn't require me working the bow really fast. I can go nice and slow and I get an ember within a minute. Another thing that I like, the string on your bow, you need to be able to remove it quickly and tighten it up or loosen it up depending on the situation. So I always start out by putting a slip knot in one end, and I usually cut a little notch on each side to allow that string to kind of fit in there so it doesn't wear as easily. And then when I come down to this end, I just make a split, or in this case I use my Swiss Army knife to just cut a little groove down in there, and this will come apart with one pull, and I can retighten it or loosen it depending on what I need to do. So you see I have a little slit there that maybe goes about an inch down in. You can just split this wood and it won't continue to split on you if you do it the way I show you. Now, you can do it any way you want, but this is what works for me. Once you get that split, you just pull your string fairly tight, about like that, like a loose bass string. If you've ever seen somebody play a bass guitar, well, that's about like a loose bass string. Run it through there and go underneath the rope, and do that a couple times and pull it nice and tight. What that will do, that will prevent your bow from splitting further down, because this string is going to hold it and keep this string from allowing it to split. So go around there 2 or 3 times, nice and tight underneath the rope, and then go over the rope 2 or 3 times, and then just come right back through the slit and pull it tight, and that'll lock it in place. Now, since I cut this slit with my Swiss Army knife saw blade, it's actually the perfect size, so it makes a nice compression fit on this paracord. But if I was just cutting a split in there and using any rope I had available, I may have to tie a granny knot on there just to slightly secure it, to keep it just from falling out of there. But as it is, this holds itself right in there, and it won't come loose either, because I went underneath this rope 3 times, and then I went over the top of the rope 3 times and back through the slit, and that locks it right in. These are you know, for me, looking back on this is something very simple. It doesn't seem that I would need to think this through, but setting my bow up in this manner makes the process of doing the fire bow so much easier. And the one thing I try to do with any of this is expend as little amount of energy as possible, and this works good for me. A nice long bow that runs from my opposite shoulder to my opposite fingertip when my arm is fully extended, and on me that is between 3 and 4 feet, and also using the same piece of wood for my spindle and my fireboard, because that way the density of the wood is very similar, and you don't wear the spindle or the fireboard out prematurely. If your fireboard is too soft compared to your spindle, you're just going to drill a hole through your fireboard and you won't get enough friction to get fire. You'll get lots of smoke, but you won't ever get fire. And if your spindle is too soft, then the exact opposite will happen. You'll wear your spindle down to nothing, and you'll never get enough friction to make fire. But if you use a wood that is similar in density, you will get the friction you need. And if the wood is a little too hard or a little too soft, it won't be as big of a concern, because it's the same exact wood that you're using for the spindle and the fireboard. So that's all I can really tell you on that. I'm going to go ahead and make my fireboard and spindle now, and I'm going to try out a few different bearing blocks and see what works best for me.